Welcome back, everybody. Episode 46 of Michigan Brews. Who do we got tonight? We got Michigan Mead Coalition. I was afraid I was going to mess that up. So this is all going to be Brian's baby tonight.
Yeah. So I guess let's bring Bill and Amy in. So I was fortunate enough to meet both of them down at Valhalla when they passed through down to the Sugar Belt Mead Festival. That's what it was, right? The Sugar Belt Mead Festival. Not like, okay. Yeah, and asked them to be on the show, and they were nice enough to decide to come on tonight with us. So, welcome. What's everybody drinking?
Thank you. Currently, I'm drinking my my Zambian traditional mead. So it's made with honey from the Zambian forest in Africa, and it's now got 3 golds and a silver on it now. So it's pretty tasty mead. Very interesting.
How old is
How old?
Yeah. Sorry.
Age is I think November will be 2 years.
Cool. Very cool.
So this is a rebrewed batch then that's won multiple medals on rebrews, right?
No, single batch, just multiple bottles in different competitions. I entered it like 4 months after I've initial brewed it and got a gold immediately.
That must be what I was thinking about, because you took gold in Michigan Beer Cup in 19 with that, right? Zambia? Yeah.
The Zambian, yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I was thinking it's older than 2 years, but right on. It was just young.
Yeah, it was young. It was like, maybe it might be 3 years then. I don't know. It's been a while, but yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, so it's quite a few golds on this one. So yeah, it's one of my favorites I've done, just because I absolutely love traditionals, and the weirder and the more interesting the honey, the better for me. Like whenever I see somewhere's got something like gallberry mead or any kind of like weird little honey from forest honey from like Uruguay and things like that, I've all kinds of like amazing weird honeys, and they're awesome. So
how does one acquire Zambian forest honey? Like, how'd you come across that?
Yeah, no joke.
It was actually on one of the AMMA boxes. They, I think it was Z Specialty. Amy, do you remember which one it was?
That's B Seasonal.
B
Seasonal does the Zambian. They have a lot of Brazilian kind of honeys, and that's definitely B Seasonal. But they're featured frequently in the AMMA buys. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What are you drinking?
I've only been a member of the AMMA for about 3 months now, so I've been watching the specials. Yeah, they seem really, really, really good. Like, what about you, Amy? What are you drinking?
So.
I didn't even think to grab any of my own stuff. I just ran downstairs and said, I want something that's cold and just good. So I grabbed a crafted artisan meadery cherry sizer is what I have here. And then for backup, because I thought this might go long, I brought a brimming horn, plum mead that's been oak aged. So I haven't had this one yet, but both of those are really solid meaderies. And, figure I have a big cellar. I need to enjoy something that I haven't had yet. So
where's brimming horn from? Is that what you said?
Delaware.
Okay.
So that's John Talkington's meadery. So really solid stuff. They're really good.
Awesome. What about you, Jason? You doing the mead first or the hams?
I got them both going, to be honest with you. So right now I'm tucking into your Marionberry.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Marionberry.
So it's when did you make this, Brian? Last year?
I think it was late winter, early spring.
Yeah. So I've got that, and then I've got my blueberry. Both of these are the no water added meads. Brian did the Marionberry, and then I took his kind of process or steps and did a blueberry myself. And so that's what I'm going to be going into tonight. But both of them are super, super sweet. So I'll be cutting in with some hams and spacing this out so I don't get diabetes.
I'll tell you what. When we were at the Sugar Belt Festival,
Yeah.
the saving grace was the
High
Coors
Life.
Light, High Life.
High life.
It was High Life.
High Life was
It
the
like
saving
that
grace
for a
because
pure flavored beer. So yes,
Every-
absolutely.
everything was so sweet because it's the Sugar Belt Festival, right? So everything is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
no sugar
That to
added.
heart. Everyone who came took that
14%.
to heart. It was
Yeah, so,
sweet.
you know, we all are Amy and
Oh.
the rest our pancreases were bruised.
Yes,
And, so
that
it
was
was
my
great
takeaway. I think
to
I bruised
a
my
highlight. I'm
pancreas.
just like, oh, this is so good.
Yeah, so I'm two fisting it. I'll call it a palate cleanser. Is my hams.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. And what about you, Jordan?
Drinking just meat I have on tap. It's a hydromel, I believe. So it's like 7.5%.
Yeah.
Made with all Michigan honey. Pretty straightforward, straight ahead. There's nothing super fancy or special about it. But it's only like I think
You've
this is
tried
like
that,
my second
right?
or what's that?
We tried that before, right? I think you gave
Yeah.
us bottles of it.
Yeah, I
on the
believe
show?
so.
Okay.
Yeah. It's only like my second, maybe third mead I've made. So
Cool.
I just bought honey to do another one, so they'll be getting one ready for the holiday season here.
So did you make it sweeter or drier when you were doing the hydromel, or
It's definitely on the dry side.
so no
Yep.
back sweetening kind of thing?
Little bit.
Little bit.
I back sweetened with a touch of orange blossom, and that was
Okay,
about
nice.
it.
Did you carbonate it, or is it still?
It's carbonated. Yep. More on the lighter side of carbonation. I can't. The term escapes my mind.
Kettles.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
Nice.
That's awesome. Then I think I don't know if you guys were on the only reason I heard about this was because of the Michigan Mead Coalition post actually, but Manic did a Mead Matters series not too long ago, and I still had like about a pour left of each of their Tupelo blossoms and their orange blossom that I've just had sitting out on the counter per his recommendation. He said, let it sit out on the counter for a couple weeks and come back to it corked, and so I did, and yeah, it's still tasting just as awesome as it was that night. The Tupelo is crazy good.
I love Tupelo honey.
Yeah, Tupelo honey is one of my favorite honeys. I think one of my top meads that Bee Nectar has ever made. It was a long time ago, but it was their dry Tupelo. Didn't sell well because traditionals, regularly don't sell very well, and dry anything doesn't sell very well.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't sell well, which was great for me because I bought all of it. But it was delicious, and I couldn't get enough of it. It's just so good.
I think probably one of the best ways to kind of figure out how to actually taste meat is probably just like buying meat from people that have been doing it for a while. I only really started getting into making it probably like a year ago, and and you had that the traditional meadow foam that I made, and I got great feedback on it. Thank you for that. And then tasting this compared to some of my traditionals that I have, like I can kind of tell what you meant by like. So one of the comments was like you can kind of taste the honey in it, and so it's like, well, yeah, it's a mead, right? You're supposed to have like a honey taste to it, but it's more like balanced and blended, in something like this. It's not so honey forward, I guess. So I'm starting to kind of get that.
There's a big difference between raw honey versus fermented honey, right? And even with that, you most of the time back sweeten with raw honey. So you're going to get some of that character, but you don't want that character to be the prominent thing in your beverage. Because then at that point, why not just take, vodka and water it down with some water and honey, and then you'd have almost the same thing, right?
Yep, sure.
And so it really is all about taste. It's all about balance between sweetness, acid, and tannin, and really that perceivable level that you want it to be without being cloying or 2 just straight raw honey.
Yeah, I'm totally getting that. So Amy, how about so we want to get into obviously what the Michigan Mead Coalition is, because we wouldn't have you guys on, just to, talk homebrew and stuff like that. Although we love it. I mean, we're, homebrewers and beer brewers, and that's totally our jam. And hopefully we do get into that, but, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you, what your role is in the Michigan Mead Coalition.
Okay. Well, I have been part of the mead scene, I guess, for I think I'm going on 6.5, 7 years now. Still really a newbie as far as the mead world goes, because everybody that I, not everyone, but quite a few of the people that I look up to just seem to have been, making mead for 20, 30 years. And I'm like, okay, I'm definitely new, in that realm. But in the time I've been in, I kind of, I didn't know a lot of people who drank mead at all when I first got started. I happened to run into the mead maker over at Kunin one day. It's sitting at the bar, and it was like, well, what are you drinking? And we just had a little conversation, and he brought out some mead for me to try and I'm like, I think I'd had one mead in my life to that point. And we got in this conversation about flavor, and from there it went into, he's like, have you ever considered making mead? And I'm like, no, because I mostly didn't know what the hell it was. So from there he said he would teach me, and I was like, cool, I'm down for learning new things. And so he taught me how, and the rest is kind of history. I took off doing a bunch of competitions, and since I didn't know anyone who drank it, really, because I wasn't part of the scene at all, I wanted to get some feedback other than friends and family saying, oh yeah, this is good. And, but they couldn't help me at all get better. So I started to compete mostly for feedback, and I did okay. I've done all right in the competition circuit. I like to think I make okay mead. But I've gotten myself involved.
Very modest.
Being very modest. I think they were number 10 in the world last year or 2 years ago. So
2 years.
2 years ago. So that's
Nice.
pretty damn good.
That's pretty modest.
Yeah, no joke. Wow.
So, but okay. Anyhow, I got myself involved with the AMMA, and then when a group of us in Michigan here started to realize that there's such a huge group of Michigan homebrewers and we're all parts of different clubs all over the place, and we all have our own little allegiance to our clubs, but it'd be great if we could all get together and talk mead and grow our craft and support meaderies that are local to Michigan as well. So that we kind of got together with the idea of camaraderie between the clubs and the different mead makers from all over the place, and wanting to supply some education and a chance for us to promote mead just as an industry all over the place. So it's really nice to have folks within our state, even though our state is huge, being able to come in from all over the place and get together. And usually we meet at a commercial meadery generally. That's been a challenge this past year with nothing being open. So we've been on a little bit of a hiatus, but we do have meetings scheduled, and I want to make sure I give you the right date. A general meeting is going to be July 25th, which is a Sunday at noon at the Warren location of Kunin Brewing. So that's K1 for those of you who are, there's Kunin first location and second location. We're going to meet at the first location. We plan on speaking with Frank Rattel will be there and talking to us a little bit about Kunin meads. And then we are welcome at that location to bring some of our own meads to share and, kind of like our own little homebrew club. And we'll kind of go from there. So That's kind of it in a nutshell. Bill, what did I miss?
I don't know. I think you did pretty good. Amy's the vice president, so that's kind of the role she plays. I'm president. MMC kind of grew out of the idea that there are these little pockets of mead groups that are auxiliaries to other clubs, but they tend to be really small and get overshadowed by the club in general. And we wanted to be not only an auxiliary to all clubs anywhere in Michigan, we also wanted to welcome people who were just flat out interested in mead, people who are just fans of mead. You don't have to have been made to make it. We really were like, hey, we'll teach you to make it if you want to make it, right? Because we're always looking for more brewers. But even if you're not interested at all and you just want to come and learn about mead, we do mead evaluation stuff. We're actually helping sponsor a mead exam this year with Gail Melbourne. She's a member and she's a Grandmaster level 3, I think. 4.
I think she's a 3.
Wow.
Yeah,
She's
she's amazing, absolutely amazing. But yeah, she'll be.
She's been on the show before, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's gonna be running the exam, but as part of one of our things, perks for membership is there's many of us who are already mead judges, and we're gonna run study exams beforehand, running through tastings, running through the questions, running through honey profiles, through trad profiles, through different yeast characters, all different things for that, and even sensory evaluation for faults and fermentation problems.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. We're doing that kind of stuff. So even the hobbyists who like mead and want to know more about mead, or are interested in taking that exam, there's even that kind of stuff too. So, but yeah, that's where we're just trying to bring mead forward in the community. We're trying to be as open as possible to anyone who wants to know about mead and not be very region specific. So, we've had so far we've had meetings in mostly the Detroit area, but we have had meetings in Ann Arbor, and we're talking about having a field trip one to Valhalla.
Okay, cool.
It'd be pretty cool. We've already talked with Tom a couple times, and he's signed up for the Mead Coalition, which is awesome. I think that's what that's really kind of what we do. Anything else going on? Anything you can think of?
About how many members do you guys think you have?
We have been talking too. We would also like to start adding what we're going to call like mead road trips, and places that we can visit that are close together, and just say, hey, as a coalition, anybody who wants to join, we're just going to kind of hop on the road and start visiting places around the state, or maybe someplace if they're a little bit out of the state, but we'd like to be able to make little couple day trips and sojourns, just to taste and check places out and support meaderies, because they could all use our support.
Yeah.
I think
100%.
you were saying about the number of members. I think right now paid members we're about 28, I think, but we have like 140, I think, on the Facebook page. That
it's 158 members right now on Facebook. So
on Facebook, 158.
Sweet.
Wow.
So we're small, but folks are passionate, which is nice.
Yeah. One unfortunate thing was that this started the January of 2020, and so by March of 2020, everything was shut down. So we did a few really interesting virtual events. We did a kind of a meet and greet and talk with Michael Fairbrother from
Moonlight
Meadery, and then we did with a wonderful mead maker in California. We did a Tej demonstration where we all kind of followed her and made our own tej. And if you don't know what tej is a traditional Ethiopian mead made with the sticks and leaves of the jato plant.
Wow.
And so that it's a really interesting mead. I've got 5 gallons of it, and if you're coming to Michigan Homebrew Fest, I will be having probably a keg of it on at the MMC tent. So you'll get to try some tej, and I'll probably even have a couple of the traditional glass bottles to show about it and things like that. So,
So what's
How do you
this
go about
plant?
getting? Yeah.
it's a native plant that grows in the Ethiopian highlands. So if you don't know much about Ethiopia, whereas a lot of Africa is desert, right? This Ethiopia sits way up in elevation on a big giant isthmus, basically, and or plateau, not isthmus, plateau,
Mhm.
and it's got a relatively temperate climate as far as the rest of Africa. So they have a lot of bushy type plants, and the jato plant is it's pronounced jato, but it's like spelled geisho, I think.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and it's this like kind of bushy looking plant that they use the sticks and the leaves as part of it. Mostly they use the sticks. The leaves are they call them actually like they call it African hops because they're rather bitter, and they use it. They actually can be used as like a hop alternative. But the sticks actually produce both the yeast and the flavor profile to the mead. So you get all of the yeast naturally off the bark of the sticks. So it makes a really interesting kind of almost malolactic character to the mead, but still this nice sweet honey, real soft character.
How do you acquire the sticks? Like, and still hopefully like keep the yeast intact and stuff like that, like all the way over here.
You contact me and Bill because we both bought some and we have a crap ton of sticks. So
Very true.
So you said something interesting there, Bill, that I caught. You said MMC tent. So you guys you're gonna come with your own tent this year?
Yes.
You're not talking about the second story of the
catch.
fort for the.
So the second story of the fort
KGB?
KGB.
I know, that's why I'm confused here.
So
just
we're
wanted
not a
clarification.
KGB club.
So
We're
you're
we're an
you're gonna-
exhibit for everything. So we're having our
Nice.
own tent,
That's
and
awesome.
and we'd probably just because everyone else belongs to other homebrew clubs as well. We probably won't be like manning the tent and running it the entire time of the weekend, but probably 3 or 4 hours a night during the prime time areas. And then if anyone else wants to jump back there who's in the club and serve for a while, whatever they want to do. But we're going to advertise specific times, and those times will be when we're serving.
That's exciting to hear that we're gonna have basically a new feature to Homebrew Fest then. David. So I think he's asking if you're going to enter your mead under the MMC.
We had that actually a discussion, and I was planning on entering mine as my meads as MMC, and since there's only one, you're only allowed one entry now. Technically, I could only win one award if I went, so I'm probably going to try to win it for MMC, just because I'm president. So yeah.
Right on.
David, you guys might have some advantage there with a lot of KGB's mead makers are MMCs, so they'll be wishy-washy on if they're going to put it on KGB or MMC. Well,
no, I hadn't really considered which one I was going to do, but I probably should go MMC. So, but that'll I don't want it to hurt our club either. So there's that. So
Okay,
It's all about the individual,
KGB can't win the mead maker. I mean the beer Michigan Beer Cup every year. We'll have to let someone take some.
Oh boy, did you hear somebody sighed pretty big on that one? So
We came at you pretty hard last time, but
Hey, that
You
we
guys did, and you guys can really get close.
and you took it with a mead. So get out of our way, Bill.
I think last year we KGB ran the most of the meads. So
yeah, you guys did. You guys
Yeah,
were amazing in the mead category.
there's only two
And-
meads that we didn't get the medal for.
I think I'm pretty sure I got to try your Zambian. You were doing samples of that up at the upper bar, right?
Yep.
And it was I remember it was amazing. So
But I will say though, let's see if this works here.
oh yeah,
I'm
that's
trying to see if I can get him out of the way here. Yeah, here.
Well, that's a whole lot of Brian's.
I've already made amends and apologized for whatever fruit I may or may not have stolen.
That watermelon. That's a KGB watermelon right there. We claim that as our own. I can't get our pictures out of the screen, but Jason had his way with it.
Whoa.
Somebody left it unattended. It was late. We were hungry.
Shenanigans happen
You would
at
attend it as well?
MHF.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I apologized the next day. So
You apologize for the tomatoes.
Don't worry. We were all too hungover to notice.
actually, I'm pretty sure I apologized for the tomatoes too.
So yeah, one bottle this year or one entry. That's tough. It's gonna be tough because I have meads I want to enter, not necessarily because I plan on meddling with them or anything, but I want the feedback. But then do I just save those for other competitions and
Michigan Mead Cup.
try to bring my best beer for this?
Yeah, Michigan Mead Cup is coming up as well, so I don't think that's going to be quite as limited as Michigan Beer Cup, but that is coming. It's in October, so that's another. That one's an all mead comp, so there should be a little bit more room there for entries. You can always also keep an eye on the BJCP calendar for competition because that's where they all are now. Not everybody takes meads, but for a very long time when I was just trying to get feedback, I just looked for random competitions in God knows where, whoever was having one. And if they took mead, I'd send some. I didn't care if I won or not. I wanted to get the feedback. And it's important to have someone else tasting your product that isn't trying to just blow sunshine up your derriere. You want to have real feedback.
Yep.
So, and it's hard when friends will tell you that it's great even if it sucks. So they're not the best people to necessarily get feedback. So, it doesn't hurt, especially if you're not in a mead-centric community.
We are not over here. Yeah. Cool.
That's another.
That's the same. It's the same thing I say for the club, Amy. Is encouraging everybody to enter competitions just to get the best and most open feedback that you can. Because I like Brian, so I'm going to tell him this stuff is good, even though it's not. And I do him a disservice.
You don't. You don't at all.
Well, good.
That's one other thing we've done it in.
Good friends don't let friends serve shitty mead, so that's just.
Yeah, 100%.
That's another thing the MMC did before we kind of broke for COVID was that we actually were doing a anonymous mead drop box. Basically, at the beginning of the meeting, you just basically drop your mead in, and you put down put on like a sticky note with a number on it, and write yourself that number, and just keep so that you have it, and then we will give a quick feedback and judging with like two of the hot top judges that are there that time, and that way you can get feedback on your meads pretty much right there, and everything that's left over they just pour and let other people try. But we'll actually evaluate them and give them feedback on what not only what we thought of it, but also how you might be able to fix it. Because a lot of these are like they're just thieving it out of a carboy, and there's plenty of time to do things like acid adjustments or tannin adjustments, oak, flavorings, anything you want to do to it. And so that way they have a lot better idea of, what at least what we would do to
We
brighten
were
up.
also encouraging folks to bring us their problem meads where they said, we don't know what the heck is wrong with this. Can you help us try to fix it? And sometimes they're fixable and sometimes maybe not so much. But, that was a nice way to get some truly honest feedback, is have it be anonymous. So we didn't worry about, like if I was tasting it in front of you, I wouldn't want to say, okay, maybe this is not so good. It's better when it's you can be honest. You don't have to be mean, obviously, but it's better if it's anonymous.
Constructive.
So you can get true constructive criticism.
Yeah, even me, I'm usually pretty good about being honest about my judging. But if I don't know you all that well and you hand me your mead and it's got flaws to it, unless you're like, please, please, please tell me exactly what's wrong with this. I'm usually like, oh, this is good, and this things out, this is great, and blah blah blah, because I don't want to discourage anyone, right? But that's a really good way to anonymize it, so I'm not, facing the person directly in front of me that wants my honest opinion.
We've discussed doing that at our homebrew club meetings before. Basically, somebody just drops off bottles to one of the officers or something, a night or two before the meeting, and we bring them in, and the officers can set up the bottles. Then it's pretty much anonymous except for the person that knows who brought them, and we can crack open bottles, and everybody in the club can sort of give their opinion on the beer and stuff like that. And we're not. I don't think our club actually has any BJCP judges, but still, feedback is feedback. If you get like 12 people that say they, your beer tastes like, particularly tart or something like that, like you probably know that like that is a consistent real issue with the beer or something like that. I'm 100% with anonymous feedback for sure. Yeah. I just cracked open the rest of the orange blossom from Manic, which was a little bit sweeter, 1041 actually, as a finishing gravity on that. I didn't think I would like it so sweet for a traditional, but it's excellent. I think you can taste the citrus more now. It's a little bit sweeter, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think I need another drink. I will be right back.
No worries.
Just opened mine, so.
If you hear like zipping and unzipping, it is my backpack. I have like a backpack that I can stick like an ice pack in, and it stays insulated. So I try to stick beer and stuff in there for the show, and at least keep it a little cold or something. But
sure, Brian, sure. So what do you guys have on the books? You said you have your meeting in July on the 24th at K1. Do you have any other like presentations or anything planned or in the future for this year? Or
well, we've got we're trying to help out again. Gail Milburn runs the Michigan Mead Cup. We're trying to help her out. We're trying to find a head steward for her for that one. That was one of our kind of goals. We want to really talk to members and find out where they want us to go, because it's been such a weird year. We have discussed a whole bunch of stuff as a board saying, okay, we could do this and we could do this and we could, it's time to present a whole bunch of ideas to the members and say, all right, guys, where do you want us to go with this? And but the road trips and the field trips and trying to support the Michigan meaderies is high on our priority list. So getting out to new places and just bringing members to the different places. We meet every other month rather than every month. Like, so we meet in person every other month, and then we try to get some form of education out there in the off month. So that's kind of what's going on. We don't have a ton like concrete on the calendar because we did want to talk to the members and find out what they want us to do. But we do have some fun ideas coming up, and we're hoping to get some more from them as well. And just kind of pull this weird year out of the dregs and come up with something that's actually fun and give. I'm all about giving people what they want. So my big thing is I need to be able to ask them. So the meeting is going to be a good thing. So
do you have any, are there dates lined up for Michigan Mead Cup yet?
There are. Let me see if I know it's October.
October, I think it's 10th.
Oh, cool.
16th, October 16th.
Okay, I'm glad you're on that because I was looking. So
Yeah,
October 16th. Earlier, so. And then, do you remember where they said it was going to be? Annie said it. She said it at the meeting.
It's going to be at Brewery Brecker in what's that city? Brighton.
Oh, okay.
So it does tend to move around the state. So they had it down toward Metro Detroit last time, and now it's on the move. So
yeah, if you don't know where Brecker is, it's just northeast of Ann Arbor.
Cool.
Yeah, not far away at all.
Get that on the calendar.
So Bill, while you were getting your beverage, they asked about anything else that we had solidly planned, and I was telling them that we wanted to talk to membership after, and come up with solid plans after. But other than the road trips, can you think of stuff that we actually had, like we're for sure doing this?
Nothing for sure. We had a lot of stuff like starting to be planned right before pandemic, so I want to start bringing some of those things back up. There was a couple pro-am things that we were talking with to do a collaboration with a couple meaderies in the area. There were a couple of things that we were trying to do with more talks with some more mead makers. We're going to do a honey education, one that we want to work with a couple different honey beekeepers to talk about beekeeping, and then also do another one that's all about honey profiles versus what their meads are different than what the honey actually produces, and how to like pick a good honey versus what is waxy about honeys, what's high high water content in honeys. There's a lot of different like tasting notes you can do with different honeys, and there's a lot of variety in honeys. You've ever had buckwheat versus some of the white ones. Yeah. I mean, like the really, really light white ones, like
white sage
white sage, things like that, right? Though, like where white sage is, it's super pale light, and it will, when you make it, it looks like water in a mead because it's that light, right? Whereas buckwheat can look like a American brown. It's so dark, right? So just the honeys themselves can be crazy varietal in different shades, as well as
would something like blending the honeys like be included in that sort of presentation, or would that maybe be like a separate one or something?
I think
that's something that I have a lot of interest in.
So I can't remember who it was, but there was a talk at one of the homebrew conferences. I think it was the one in Grand Rapids, if I remember correctly. I don't remember, but anyway, and they talked about honey, using different types of honey, like the way you would do with specialty grains in beers. You use use a very basic wildflower or orange blossom something as your base grain, and then you build a flavor profile based on the different honeys you have in small amounts, the same way you would with specialty grains, and that you can really nail in specific flavor profiles that way. If you know
Especially
your
with complementary yeast, it really does make a huge difference. Capturing all those different profiles and making the prominent things stand out that you really are that you want to go for. It's been a really interesting journey for me. Right along with what you were discussing, I went to a different seminar out at UC Davis about mead making, and that was one of their very prominently featured topics was honey pairing with your yeast and basically making your honey do what you want it to do, which is, and I'm not really a beer producer, so I'm just learning beer. But to me, building that recipe and getting it to do what you want it to do is key, because it's all about the flavor really at the end of the day. And I don't really know how to build a beer. I'm still using kits and still learning, but a lot of people are comparing, how to do that from a grain profile standpoint. And it really is the same when you try to build a great mead. So
It's interesting.
Amy just did her first beer all by herself.
I did.
Nice. Congratulations.
Oh, congrats.
I did it all by myself.
She did a
That's
Katharina Sour.
That's great. Yeah. No, we it's interesting to talk about the varietals of honey and the different flavor characteristics and stuff those bring in. I guess as brewers, I'm well versed on the malts and the different malt colors and flavor profiles that you get off of those. And I never thought about it for other things. And when we had Andrew Blake on to talk about cider, he started talking about all the hundreds of different apple varieties that you would never eat on the table that they press for to get their ciders. And so it makes sense that you could do the same thing with the honey varietals to get that same kind of, or build that flavor profile that you're looking for. So that's really, really, really cool.
Crab apples you used to find as a kid make the best ciders around.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want.
I've heard that. Yeah.
I think Ken Tramp posted something about a crab apple variety that it was on his Facebook page the other day. He's like, the flavor's amazing. It's all great like this, but to make a pie, I would kill myself or something. So you got to go pick so many. But I think he did mention that it makes a good cider. So we have Brian Newcomb from Gluten Free Beer Supply up by, I think, Troy, Michigan.
That's a good question.
He says, do you guys have a good spot on where to buy great honey, or where do you guys get your honey?
Absolutely. I have a great place. It's called Windmill Hill Farms. They're technically out of Croswell, Michigan, which is up by Port Huron, but they have a pickup spot in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. So you can opt out of getting it shipped and pick it up in Grosse Pointe, and you don't have to pay shipping on it.
Cool.
And it's actually really great because it's funny. You literally pull up and it's a relatively modest house, but every other house around it is these $4 or $5 million mansions. In like my old boss lives like 4 houses down from them in this giant mansion, right? And pull up and they literally just say, press the button on the side of the house or the garage. The garage door is open. Your name will be on a bucket. You just grab the bucket, throw it in the back of your car, and that's it. Never talk to anyone, never see anything.
No, they literally
cool.
they just keep dropping people's orders off in the garage. They give you a little code and you're good to go. So they are wonderful.
What was her name again?
Windmill Hill Farms.
Yep, they're great. As a AMMA person, I'm definitely going to talk about becoming a member of the AMMA, and their monthly honey deals are fantastic. They feature an apiary every month, and they get some sort of great deal from them. And they've had all kinds of different honeys from all over the world that are featured, and usually you get some insane discount, and there's usually shipping included in that, and it's really one of the best deals out there, and it pays for the membership in one shipment, honestly, because you save that much. So it's those are fantastic deals. Some of the places that I've gotten some more exotic honeys from, because I do a lot with traditionals, and I really do like varietal honey. Z Specialty is a fantastic place to get them. They are a little bit more expensive, so if you can hold off until the AMMA deal, they usually have 2 a year with them. Be Seasonal is awesome. Walker's Honey Farm is amazing. There are quite a few out there that have just some amazing honeys, but they all have such different profiles, and they're all over the country. So yeah, there's a lot.
I know for just like basic honey, I think like Wildflower, maybe a couple of common varietals you can get. Web Restaurant Store is where Brian and I have bought before, and I know for bulk honey, it's affordable if you're just trying to make something, like these no water added fruit meads, right? Where you're not really looking for any honey characteristics, you're highlighting the fruit, the Kentram dessert style mead. But Brian, whose computer crashed, when he gets back, I'm sure he can tell us about. He orders some crazy varietals from a guy in Hawaii.
Does he? Right. Is that the guy who does it in the bags?
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't tried that honey yet, but I've seen people featuring that or talking about it a lot on Modern Mead Makers, and I've been really curious about that honey.
I mean, for the price shipped, it doesn't seem that bad. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. I just know it's not a bad price. And Brian was getting, I think, Coffee Blossom, Tangerine Blossom, some other, cool.
Hawaiian Lua, because that's Amy.
Yes.
Yeah, Hawaiian Lua is one of my favorites. So.
Yeah, I know that he got that one. Here he comes. He'll tell us.
He's slowly coming in.
Right. Man, we're just waiting for him. And but yeah.
There we go.
You're back. Well, tell us where you get your Hawaiian mead from, or honey.
It is from, of course, I know his name up until I'm like friends with him on Facebook. Up until you asked for that, Sean Harris. He's in the Modern Mead Makers group. He's in a few homebrewing groups. He runs, I can't remember the name of his farm. Wow Kelly. Wow, it's WAOKELE, 2 separate words. But yeah, great stuff. I got my Lahua Blossom came from him. I got a Tangerine Blossom from him and a Coffee Blossom, which I'm going to open in a sec here. It's been in bottles for a couple months, and I haven't opened one, so I'm kind of excited for that. I had one of my Lahua Blossoms a couple nights ago, and I thought it tasted like pretty good. It's interesting. I think, Amy, you actually had to talk about this down at Valhalla, in that it has just kind of this because I was worried that I got bad honey or the wrong honey or something, because it kind of has this funk to it. It's like this citrusy sort of funk or something, and it's awesome and it's unique, and it's like deep and rich, and that comes through in the mead. But yeah, I was worried. I wasn't sure, because I'm still trying to learn what these honeys taste like.
And well, that's one of those things that you don't always expect too from different honey, because you taste it raw, like out of the barrel or whatever, and you taste it and you're like, oh, this is delicious. But when it ferments, sometimes it doesn't taste anything like what you got in that sample. And so that's one of those honeys. Now, I absolutely love Hawaiian Lahua. That's one of my favorites. But like you mentioned, when it ferments, it does tend to get a very slightly, some people would call it maybe medicinal or eucalyptus-y sort of flavor. That's part of the honey. That's in there. It's a little bit of funk that comes with it, but you also get all these beautiful floral characteristics that you don't get anywhere else. It's a gorgeous honey, but it's perfect for a traditional. But if you blended that with some other, I would love to see that with white sage. It would be phenomenal. It would bring out all these tropical notes, and it would be fantastic. So, but yeah, there'd be a lot of different ones that you could blend and make them really great with the different ones. So, and I just bookmarked that page so I can check them out later, because I have not had the pleasure of buying from them yet, but I have heard only good things. So
yeah. It's usually, I think, 90 pounds for 20. I'm sorry, $90 for 20 pounds, and that includes shipping.
Oh,
Yeah. So
That's a good deal.
honestly, I mean, I feel like it's
pretty solid.
as good as anything for, honey like that. I guess I don't know. Again, I've only been into this, for however many
$4
months.
a pound for those type of
it's
honeys
like $4.50 with shipping. That's not bad. So
Yeah.
especially if you're
And
getting different varietals for that price, and it's not just
Mhm.
your area wildflower. That's a solid price.
Yeah, some of those traditionals, the monoflowers out there, they're going out like $15 a freaking pound, and it's just like
Oof.
I
But
can't.
when you buy
afford-
them in
Wow.
a little honey bear, it costs a lot more. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he ships them in these nice pouches. I guess is the only way to describe them. That has like a little twist off knob, and if they crystallize a little bit, they're really easy to warm back up if in like a really lukewarm sous vide bath or something like that. Yeah. So yeah.
Nice, yeah. I've seen the pictures of all those pouches. People getting their honey from the pouches. So on mead makers and things like that.
They're really heavy duty, thick, well built plastic bags. I mean, yeah.
I'm not sure if they're actually built for that or what they're actually for, but they do the job really well. And I'm going to apologize in advance too if I crash again. Hopefully I won't. I don't know what it is, but like the last couple weeks, just this show, my computer runs fine all week long, and then like we'll do the show and like an hour in or something, and it just starts like misbehaving. So I don't know.
Yeah, you're
So hopefully I won't go away again.
already like 20 seconds out of sync. That's funny. Stop spending
Am
money
I?
on honey and
Build a computer.
upgrade your computer.
Let me. I'm gonna come back into the stream. Hold on. We'll see if that syncs anything.
It's like, yeah, he was pretty far off.
I know, it was like you hear him talking and he's drinking on stream. It's like some kung fu stuff there. Anyway, what other trying to get an upgrade? See, even David says, what other when I was first got into brewing, I'm like, I can make a honey. It's just honey and water, and I got a big old bucket of honey and I mixed a bunch of water in it, threw some yeast, and forgot about it. And I'm still trying to do something with that. 5 gallons of mead 7 years later. It's still kicking around my basement because the first time it was really horrible. It's too sweet. Then in the second time I rebrewed it really dry. And then I tried to blend it together. That didn't work. Then I put fruit on it. So I might actually bring some of it to Homebrew Fest so you guys can tell me what's wrong with it. But
Okay,
what
so you
tips
said
or tricks or
you said you threw together basically honey, yeast, and water, and that was all, right? Like you didn't do anything else. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's important to know, if you don't already, that there's very little nutrient in honey. There's nothing to feed your yeast, really. It's just sugar. But it needs nitrogen in order to actually really grow. So you need to provide some additional nutrients to your mead in order to have a healthy fermentation. And if you don't provide those things, you're going to get things like jet fuel or nail polish remover, or a lot of those unhealthy off flavors that a lot of times people associate with homebrewed mead, because they're not helping their yeast out at all, and it's producing all this massive just off flavors, and frankly it's not very good. So
Right.
Following a nutrient protocol, super important. You can use a whole bunch of different ones. It's all a mead maker's preference, really, but there are some tools out there to help you. If you're using a staggered nutrient protocol, Tasna is an awesome way to go. Batch Builder is another. It's just batchbuilder.com, but it's not quite spelled right. It's spelled a little funky, but that you can type in what you want out of your mead batch, like where you want to finish and whatnot. It'll tell you exactly how much honey you need, how much nutrient you need, and it just spits out basically your recipe for you. It's very, very handy, but you absolutely have to feed your mead or you're going to wind up with something not so good. You're not going to want to drink it. So, and a lot of this stuff you can't correct after. Once it tastes like nail polish remover, you're kind of screwed. So you have to provide some kind of nutrient.
Another thing is a lot of new mead makers don't realize, especially when they're brewers, where beer brewers, where you've been learned that you get oxygen up front, and then you don't want anything to touch that beer that's going to add any way added oxygen as soon as fermentation starts. Meads, they tend to build up CO2 because of the viscosity of the honey. So if you've ever made mead and you've jostled around a little bit, it foams up like a carbonated beverage, and you're actually supposed to get rid of that. So once a day, you're supposed to go in there, and it's called degassing the mead, and you're actually supposed to stir up your mead and degas it. Now, I've had meads that have literally exploded when I started degassing, and it mead Kano.
It's not good.
Wow.
Right. So they trap a lot of CO2 in it, and you don't want that CO2 in there because it's off-gassing CO2, but you'll starve out the yeast because if it's too high a concentration of CO2 in there. So you want to get that CO2 out of suspension to keep a nice healthy fermentation. And that's another thing that a lot of first-time mead makers, especially ones that were brewers first, would be like, no, I'm not going to stir this mead every day. That's just going to make it taste like cardboard. But there's so much CO2 that it doesn't matter.
And that's where I was
really
going.
does feel like starting. Yeah.
Is to try to highlight some of those differences because it is lessons I've learned now. And Brian kind of educated me a while back on the YAM and then the nitrogen needs and stuff. But I guess I was highlighting it for the homebrewers that are watching as some resources. So I've linked meadmaker.com's batch builder in the link, and then to do that research to see what's different. The degassing, the nutrient schedule, that's really important. I guess my question was going to be, what's the most important thing for? We always get asked this as homebrewers, right? And the typical homebrewer answer is sanitation. If you're going to brew a beer, you're the most important thing that you need to pay attention to is sanitation. I would almost argue that that's not the case with mead making, but that's what I was going to ask is.
No, I would argue that vehemently. Sanitation is still incredibly important. A lot of the same bacteria and problem critters that happen in beer happen in mead too, and you absolutely need. Particular for clean sanitation. Because, to think about it, I mean, if you blow it on a batch of beer, you probably spent, I don't know, what, $50, $60, whatever. If I blow a 5-6-gallon batch of honey, I've wasted a few $100s. It's a huge amount of money. I am super careful with how, I don't want any critters in there. Definitely sanitation is hugely important. So
on the other hand of that, yet again, from a beer maker turned to mead maker, some of the practices that a lot of people do for mead makers that make absolutely fantastic meads you would never dream of doing as a brewer. Like I know a couple mead makers that they don't they use cheesecloth over the top of their big mouth bubbler mead, vessels for the primary fermentation for the first week. They don't even use like a bubbler and a top
Airlock or Boloff. Yeah.
airlock. None of that. It's cheesecloth, right? Just to make sure that flies and stuff don't fly into it. Because honey is naturally antiseptic, and B, again, because there's so much CO2 off gassing from it, that it naturally keeps its own blanket of CO2. So any of the stuff that's going to hit it in the very beginning is not going to be getting it through the cheesecloth. Now, again, if you have a unsanitary vessel, then you're gonna get problems, right? So sanitation is absolutely needed. But on the other hand, some of the things that you would never dream of doing as a sanitized beer maker can make absolutely fantastic meads, just because of the nature of honey.
Right on.
Yeah, I feel like having started to make a lot of meads, this past year, it definitely feels like starting over from scratch a little bit. You have to learn, for the most part, a whole new set of yeasts and a whole new set of a whole new understanding of what those yeasts do. Because you can use beer yeast to make a mead, but you have a whole new option, right? A whole new set of options now too. So that was new. And then, I know what a lot of grains taste like, but you said something. What was the honey that you mentioned earlier? White
sage.
White sage,
White
yeah,
sage,
also one of my favorites.
I have no idea what a white sage honey tastes like. And so it's one of those things. There's all the honeys that you sort of have to know if you want to start doing blending or something like that. And like Bill described, a whole new set of fermentation processes, staggered nutrient additions. Generally, you don't worry about that in beer at all. Degassing, oxygen, it's totally different. Mead isn't probably quite as susceptible to oxidation as like a New England IPA.
Well, it's not when you first.
Obviously, it still exists, but
the oxidation can still happen, but not usually during primary fermentation. So we don't worry about it so much then. I mean, as a person who's just learning to make beer, I'm kind of on the opposite end of your spectrum because I started with mead. So that's, it's a whole reverse kind of thing for me. But I guess the way I've kind of started learning about it is with mead, throwing together a batch, I can make a batch of mead in maybe half an hour and I'm done. But I have to babysit it for about 2 weeks, and I take readings and I make sure I add my nutrients and I degas, or even just rouse the yeast a little bit.
Punch down fruit.
Punch down the fruit if you are using whole fruit. It's different. You guys have like brew day, and that's it for like the whole darn day.
Yeah.
It's a different animal. The same time goes in, the same kind of level of dedication goes into it, but it's spread out over a week or so. A week to 10 days. Fair. You have to do something to it almost every day and kind of keep an eye on it to make sure it's going where it's supposed to go. So it's similar, but where your time is just spread out a little bit differently.
One thing that I was reading about people doing that I have a lot of interest in, because I feel like I have a new hobby every year within the realm of making alcohol. But last year I got really into making mixed fermentation, wild sour beers and stuff like that. And I probably have 60-ish gallons sitting down in my basement right now. that I'll cake up occasionally, and my goal was to get a blending program going, and you can do that with mead too, as I understand. A lot of people
Absolutely.
blend finished meads, I'm reading about people that like Jason, maybe that made a mead that has some off flavors, maybe not necessarily like oh wow, holy shit, like this is super bad, but like something that's not quite right, being blended into something that's like quite a bit better and making something that's more unique and still good. And I like that. I like that whole idea of being able to create a product that isn't that wouldn't be able to exist without doing that, sort of blend.
So another KGB member, I don't know if you guys might know him, Michael Spears. He's a phenomenal blender. Like he will take like 5 things and just start blending them and make amazing drinks. So he actually now is one of the 3 triaxle guys. So he now does a commercial meadery, and he's actually planning on doing mead cocktails at for National Mead Day, the first Saturday in August.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
Saturday.
the one. Jason, you asked what we were doing. One of the big things that we're going to be doing will be for Mead Day, and it is out at Triaxial. So yeah, we will totally be featuring them, and all that. They're doing a lot of fun stuff out there. But yeah, that's one of the things that we will be doing is celebrating Mead Day out at Triaxial, and looking for other meaderies who are celebrating Mead Day as well. So, but they're the only ones that we have heard solid things from right now as a plan for Mead Day. So we definitely want to support them, and we want they're new, like new-ish. They kind of opened right during the whole pandemic. So they've had what 4 or 5 releases now, something like that. About that, and they're doing some great things. Wonderful meadery. They're all pretty much, I mean, at least 2 of the 3 of the triaxial people are like homebrewers that went pro, and we definitely want to support those folks. So but they've been doing fantastic things for years. It's Barry and Mike, who were, if you go to the
MHF.
Thank you, MHF, up on, they do the Mead Power Hour every year up there. They're 2 of the 3 who did the opening, and they definitely know what they're doing, and they have.
That's not like a beer power hour, is it?
No, it's
what you're taking
it. Yeah, and then the third one is Paul Zimmerman, formerly of Bee Nectar. He's the third triaxial person.
Yeah, I'd heard he moved over to triaxial. I didn't know the other 2 guys were KGBers. That's cool.
Yeah, they've been friends for years and been talking about doing something for years, and then finally it just, Barry retired, and Paul, he happened to fall into something that he, wasn't making meat anymore, and so he wanted to start doing it again, and they found triaxial.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Well, to retire first, I guess, but
yeah, retiring is good. Yeah,
both Mike and Barry were teachers, and Barry retired, getting close. So,
well,
Brian says, "What about good temp control?"
Retired and got another job, so
temp control. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay. Well, temp control, obviously still important, is because you need to do what's best for your yeast. So you want to, you have to control your temperature at least somewhat. What's nice, I mean, my cellar temperature is in my basement is right around 65 to 67 degrees, pretty much year round. So I'm pretty lucky. A lot of the wine yeast like that temperature range, so I can pick a yeast for my ambient temperature and not have to do a heck of a lot to it, which is really nice. But there are other strains of yeast where they're much more comfortable in a specific temperature range, or things like Kvik yeasts, which obviously those are beer yeast, but we're still using them in the mead world. Speeds up our fermentation quite a bit, but they want warm temperatures. So if you have to keep it like between 94 and 96 degrees, you have to have some way of doing that. So just like you guys are doing in the beer world, I have a little fermentation chamber that I made. It's pretty much a box with an insulated box that I put the heat strips in, and I've got my temp controller on the outside, and I just kind of throw as many as I can in there and hold it at a specific temperature. Or I've also used the cowboy wraps or almost in heat bands, all sorts of stuff that I can throw on a temp controller to keep my fermentation stable at whatever temperature that I need it to be. And for the most part, that those are they work pretty well. I think honestly though, Bill lent me his Anvil Foundry, and I made mead in that thing, and I ordered one as soon as I could, because that darn thing was amazing for both beer and mead. And I can't wait till it comes in, because holds temperature within a degree. And if it's important to be able to keep your yeast happy. So heck yeah, I definitely strong advocate of the temperature control. It absolutely has to happen.
When earlier when Bill said you were top 10 in the world a couple of years ago, what was that, like one competition, or is that like a circuit, or like what is what's the story?
Referring to is I made it into the top. I think I didn't finish in the top 10. I think it was in the top 20. So it was like number 13 or something. But when they were doing the Mead Maker of the Year circuit, so it was a circuit. And they added up the points for the whole bunch of different competitions. And, I did okay, but obviously not the best. But,
that's pretty much like really good, I think.
Right. Yeah.
I think you're short selling yourself again. Yeah.
I'm not trying to. I'm really not. It's like, okay, I didn't win. So
yeah. Mead Maker of the Year is put on by the AMA every year. And I think is it 15 competitions, Amy?
No, it's actually smaller than that.
Is it?
Ranges it ranges every year, honestly. So it's not that old of a title. It's only been like the past 3 years, and obviously a couple of those years have been jacked up because all the comps that were scheduled over the past couple of years, either they're happening or they're not. So it's only been around, I think it's on its 4th year right now.
2018.
So the first and second year that it came out, I was competing pretty hard. The past 2 years, I've kind of said, I'm going to wait for all this crazy to be done, and I'll get back into the competition circuit. So I'm not keep competing as hard at the moment, but I'm still thinking that I have a lot of information to share, and I'm happy to do so with whoever wants to learn. So
for those competitions, are you limited to like one mead per category, or
no? Well,
can you kind of send in as much as you want?
Some of the comps have different rules or different criteria for entering. That's one of the things I strongly suggest is if you're going to enter in mead competitions, make sure you actually read the rules and the descriptions, especially for BJCP, like where does this mead go? What category does this belong in? And each set of rules for the competitions are different. I'm sure it's the same for beer, but sometimes what they want or what they're asking for it's wonky, and you'll be disqualified if you don't follow their rules. So it's really important to make sure you actually read their set of criteria. Some of them will say you can only enter one mead per category or subcategory even. So if you And then others will be like, no, throw them all at us. It's cool. As long as you're willing to pay an entry fee, we'll take your product. So you could run a whole category in some competitions, and I've seen that. But it really does matter what their rules are.
And just so you know, Michigan Mead Cup is on the Mead Maker of the Year circuit.
It is. It is on
okay.
It was past 2 years, yeah.
Very cool. Okay. When you're bottling mead, then do you reserve some like into like beer bottles then to set aside for competitions? Or do the competitions take like corked bottles? Like, is that like you have any like thoughts ahead of time on what you do there?
They take both. Usually most comps want 12-ounce beer bottles with caps. But they will take corked bottles, and sometimes they are specific on what size bottles they want and how many. So in mead, it gets a little bit difficult sometimes with mead when they want more than a couple bottles, because some of us are small batch mead makers. And, I tend to make more now. But when I first started, I was like, okay, I'll make a gallon batch and try this out, see how it goes. But until you learn your process and figure out all your nutrient stuff, sometimes it can take you 9 months to make that 1 gallon. And then they want, you run into a comp that wants 4, 5, 6 bottles, and you're like, okay, well, I'm screwed.
That's half my batch, yeah.
My whole damn batch is gone. So it makes things kind of difficult, especially since when it takes 6, 9, 12 months sometimes until you have a product that you consider to be great, you can't just rebrew. It's not like I hear people say who make beer, well, just make it again. So, okay, sure, I will. Okay, and I'll be able to compete with you in about a year. So no worries. It's just, it makes it a little harder. Because it's
100%. For the National Homebrew Competition, this year they're doing that all in one go, as you guys probably know. But in previous years, they've done 11, 12, 13 regional competitions, and then all the top 3 placers go to the nationals. And for people that made, say, like an IPA or something, they specifically say that you can rebrew your batch for the final competition too. And that's just not a thing that you're going to be able to do.
You can't. You
can't turn around in 2 weeks. Yeah.
I have entered that comp a couple of different times, and I have made it to nationals a couple of different times. But basically, when you enter that, you have to know you have a large enough batch to make it through the beginning rounds, and then you have enough to send in to nationals if you make it, because you can't remake that. You don't have enough time. So if you're gonna start brewing specifically for competition, I strongly suggest 5 to 6 gallon batches, because you can't do it with one. There's no way. If you're a 1 gallon brewer, there's absolutely no way you can make it through a competition circuit of a year and still have enough. You're just not going to be able to do it.
You kind of, it sounds like you sort of need to get a pipeline going then too, a little bit. Maybe, this year's circuit is based off of a mead that maybe you started, last year, sometime. And so you have, your competition meads that are all bottled up and going out right now that you started last year, while you're already planning on making next year's meads right now while the circuit's actually going on and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's not inaccurate, especially if you are making things like sack meads or melomels that need a little bit more time, or very fruit forward meads. Perhaps need a little
5
bit
years
more
for a Polish mead.
Polish mead.
Yeah.
I have a mead right now that is 2.5 years, maybe a little over 2. But they say don't serve it. You can't serve Polish mead. They want you to age it for 3 years. So,
wow,
that's a long time to be able to wait to, to serve something and hope it's good. But if you're going to compete with that, you better have, a decent amount. Otherwise, you won't be able to serve it again for 3 years. So,
Yep.
it takes a little bit. So especially the bigger ones. However, there is a little bit of a trend out there right now, and a lot of people are doing this. They're making the lighter meads. They're making more hydromels. They call them quick meads, and they're
Oh, I haven't heard that.
2 to 3 pounds of honey per gallon is usually average, and those they're ready faster. And a lot of times people are, you can flavor those, you can do a lot of things that are different, and they're quick. They're a lot quicker than a lot of traditionals or standards that are out there. They just are a lot more, especially now with the Kvik strains, they're really quick to produce. You can be done fermenting really, really fast. And then, your bulk aging doesn't seem to have to be as long. So you're getting a higher quality product a lot faster with, the hydromel than you are with a traditional or
I've turned around hydromels in about 3 weeks. And I know commercial breweries that are turning them around in 10 days.
Wow.
Which is amazing.
Wow.
I think I let mine sit for 4 months.
Yeah. I know if you've ever been to Four Fires down in Ohio, a lot of their hydromels, they're fantastic. And they're turning them around in 9 to 10 days.
That's incredible. It really is.
Yeah, that's super crazy. That's awesome.
So, and I know a lot of the folks that are working the competition circuit, because it does take a lot of mead to be able to do that competition circuit. That's a lot of them are competing and doing extremely well with hydromels. Otherwise, it's just super, super, super time consuming and expensive. It's not it's not, you can't compete and be cheap. You can't do it. So it's definitely not a penny pincher's hobby. So
yeah, learning that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can be like Carvin Wilson and have, a year's worth of salary in honey, sitting around.
I'll hear him be on a show occasionally and talk about his honey collection or whatever, and it's just mind blowing.
Yeah,
he has it's an extensive collection, but what's really, really nice is he's super willing to share his knowledge about it, and he's actually willing to share the product. So I stewarded and then judged one. It was for mash out. No, it was in Minnesota. I think it might have been mash out. But he brought over 70 varietal honeys to do his luncheon talk. He was the speaker for 2 days on that, and he put out a crap ton of varietal honey for everybody to taste. And everyone thought I was crazy, but I didn't care if they thought I was crazy or not. I drove in a snowstorm to get there last minute because I heard they needed stewards. And I was like, okay, I'm going to come and help out. I heard Carvin was going to be there with all this honey. So I drove 13 hours in a snowstorm to get there. And the next day when everybody was, listening to Carvin and doing their lunch thing, I sat there with a notepad and my toothpicks, and I tasted every single one of those honeys and took notes. And they were like,
that's awesome.
Are you actually taking notes? And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm taking notes. I just drove 13 hours for this. Yes, I want to help you with your competition, but this is why I'm here. And Carvin shared all those, which was absolutely amazing. So he's a wonderful steward of mead education and just mead in general. He's a great steward, and he is willing to share all of that. So I've been very grateful for his tutelage and for everything he's been willing to share. So he's a wonderful mead steward.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, Yeah. Do you have anything else, Jason, Jordan?
No, it's been really interesting talking to you guys, and I
Yeah.
can't wait until we can get out to Michigan Homebrew Fest to hang out and drink some mead. And
Absolutely.
We'll have plenty there.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Brian and I are working on something. Well, Brian more than I. We're working on something to bring for the Keepers Club. So
Okay, which club are you guys again? I
announcing.
want to make sure.
We're Keepers of Craft.
Yep.
Okay, Keepers of Craft. I'll have to make sure that I pay attention to you guys and come on out there and try your stuff.
They're always right
I
next
think
to
we'll be
between.
We're moving.
Okay.
We're moving this
Oh,
year.
you're moving.
moving. Yep.
Yeah. We'll be in the corner next to Livingston Social. So all the way in
in
the
the back
back.
on the
All the way in the corner. Yeah, back
Yep.
corner. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, the back left corner. So, yep.
Cool.
We got a new spot.
And then,
Brian and I are putting together a 5-gallon batch of triple berry, no water added mead, right? So
Yeah. That'll be fun.
it'll be a special tapping.
Let's
For
have a
us.
whole keg of that. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
And then you guys are just on Facebook right now. You have a website, the Michigan Mead Coalition.
Yeah,
it's
no
just-
website yet. We're just on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
facebook.com/groups/ I think it's I don't remember. I don't want to say it wrong.
Let me
I
pull
have
up.
it up.
We'll post it.
Yeah, and we'll link it at on our page too.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And then anybody can join the Facebook group.
Yep.
But you do have dues if you want to like take part in like the tastings and stuff like that. I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
basically our rule of thumb is, anyone's welcome to come to any of the meetings, but if you come to more than 2, you need to buy in and get a membership, right?
Fair. Yep.
'Cause we're always trying to bring people in, so we don't make it a hard limit, but we want to make sure that we're keeping our membership up so that we can have funding to do some of these cool things, but also still push it out to the public.
Right on.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll make sure to link that. And
Yeah, I tried, and Facebook messed me up, and it looks like crap. So we'll redo that. So
So, and Brian, you did ask earlier, when you messaged me about joining, there is,
Yeah.
I talked to the treasurer about that, and he did set up, there is a PayPal set up. So if you want to
Cool.
join via PayPal, that can happen. I think it's like, I don't know, it costs the club $1 extra more or something if you're not paying in cash, but it's not a big deal at all. So he totally set it up, and we would be happy to take your membership for sure.
let me give you money. Yeah.
Woo-hoo! Yeah, we'll take it.
The link is
Thank you for being-
facebook.com/groups/MI Mead Coalition, and then that's it. So
yeah,
Perfect.
that'll get you there.
awesome. Well, cool. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having us.
And here's where we were
Absolutely.
going
We
to talk
appreciate
through
you
our
featuring
cool
us.
ass outro. Awesome. Yeah.
I think we always talk through the outro, but yeah, I think the Michigan
Yeah.
Mead community needs as much, as many pushes